Hello, you incredible friends. This is your pal, Edward Zia, speaking with the amazing CEO and director of the Raven Group, Scott Raven. Scott Raven, how are you in beautiful Atlanta? What's going on?
I am doing fantastic, Ed. It is 8 p.m. at night here on Sunday, and I can't think of a better way to end the weekend and go into the work week than talking to you, man.
Oh, and I just want to say thank you for giving us your Sunday night. And just to let you know, around the world, Scott Raven's one of our wonderful friends. He's, as the title of the live stream says, he's all about being the CEO of your life. And he's based in wonderful Atlanta, Georgia. And you've got us down under in Sydney, Australia. And I was going to say it's great to have you with us now. Scott Raven, you've done some amazing work over the years. I want to ask you, tell us a bit about your backstory before we talk about all the cool stuff you're working on today. Tell us a bit about your backstory and about your origins. We'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. So up until about the age of 40, I had been doing extremely well in terms of going to universities, getting bigger jobs. We have a saying here called the Atlanta rotation, where you jump from company to company and get larger titles, larger pay, larger responsibility, etc. And that
Ooh, I think we lost Scott Raven there, or is it me?
I think it was you. I'll put it that way. But
Oh,
I'm back.
yeah.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Oh, but
Right?
please say. So there you
See,
go, friends.
see, this is going to be perfect when we dive into dealing with adversity, right? The technical gods are out for us, right?
I,
So,
I
any,
know. I
so
know.
anyway, I hit my first real patch of adversity in 2017 when my executive position was eliminated in a reduction in force. And I did not have a good mindset. I did not have a good skill set. I did not have inner strength. I did not have tenacity. And so I was extremely lost. And while financially, we were more than positioned in order to deal with this and continue to live our lives, that I had a gaping hole in my life and I didn't know how to fill it. So I made an unfortunate choice by filling it with alcohol in order to ease the pain. And that led me into not only significant depression, but also significant health challenges as well. And on December 21st, 2017, with extreme pains in my chest, my back, and the back of my head, I went to the hospital and I had a blood pressure of 180 over 110. And they wheel me back and they're doing all this litany of tests in order to see, is there anything that is immediately fatal that we got to deal with now? Fortunately, not. But as they're waiting for the results to come back, my family is allowed to come back, including my 7-year-old son. And I will never forget the fact that I'm there trying to figure out, if this is the last thing that my son hears from me, what do I want him to hear? And if that don't wake you up, I don't know what's going to. I'll put it that way, right? So I knew that I had to make a change in terms of the way that I handled my anxiety. Go for it. Go
Just
for
to jump in there and fascinating. So I get it. So you're a successful corporate and business leader. You were the victim, like many great people are, of crazy over the top downsizes. And so what happened was, so was that anxiety? Was that like high blood pressure due to anxiety?
It was.
Was-
It was specifically due to anxiety, and there is certainly some which is hereditary that I've had to manage since, right? But to the point of being the CEO of your life, why do I have that
Hmm,
as my tagline, right? You
hmm,
used the word yourself. You said victim. I had a
hmm,
victim mentality, and
me too.
I had the world was against me, and I did not know how to have the ownership of where I was and how I was going to take control with my own thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And
Hmm,
so I really committed from that point since in order to learn these critical lessons in many different arenas to bring this concept to life in the Raven Group through its signature program, The Ascent, which starts with self discovery and alignment. Because if you don't truly know who you are,
Mhm.
how can you possibly know where you want to go on the horizon? And
And just on that one, and I agree with you, and I can relate to this being once, is that when we're more employees in the corporate scene, I know this statement sounds funny in terms of tragically ironic, but in a way, we don't have to know who we are because we're told who we are. We get the promotion, they tell us how to dress, how to act, and that is our identity. Tell us more about that because it seems like as a corporate, you're told who you are, you're not finding it. Expand more on that one because is this what you're saying happened to me as well?
yeah, and you're actually absolutely spot on in terms of when you have tied so much of your worth to that company, and that
Mm,
company has said, you are this to us. And they can say all the right things in terms of you're highly valued, you're highly respected, etc. Right?
usual, the
But
usual
you
stuff.
are still essentially living in their label of you. If
Mm,
they take that away,
yeah,
how do you define yourself?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. I see this all the time, and especially I see this a lot. I know I'm not. I don't mean to be gendered here, but lately I've seen this a lot in women, especially.
Mhm,
Right, and a bit of backstory, wonderful Lassie runs a very successful ladies network. The
mhm,
majority of our clients are actually women, right? And
mhm.
interestingly enough, what I found, and I was actually speaking to one of our new clients on Friday about this topic, is that especially a lot of women will follow that strong, independent woman mindset. They really, really succeed as a corporate, but once they hit 40, the ageism kicks in, right?
Yes.
And when the ageism, and I've noticed, I could be wrong here, I'd love to get your viewpoint. I think ageism hits women worse than men. That's the viewpoint I've started to develop, right? So what I
Mhm.
found is once women hit 40, ageism kicks in, and especially for women, it's very hard for them. If they lose their job or something happens, that can wipe out their whole psychology, especially if they don't have kids or family. What do you think of that one? Have you seen it affect women much?
So I've seen it affect both genders, to be
Mm.
honest, but for
Yeah.
different reasons, right?
Oh, yeah.
I do
What are
agree
the
with
different
you.
reasons?
I do agree with you that ageism definitely hits women in a very strong,
Mm.
thing in terms of, you know, unfortunately, the work environment is just not kind as
Yep.
women get older, even though they have fantastic knowledge to bring to the table. They have fantastic work ethic. They can produce like it's nobody's business, right? And I'm fascinated by this because it's something that while they have the challenge of breaking through that barrier in terms of getting in, where they have a strength versus men, and this is
Mm.
where I feel men actually do even worse, is
Mm.
that women by and large still have their confidant network in terms of who they can talk
Mm.
to outside of the workplace.
Yep.
List that 1 in 6 adult men do not believe that they have a single true friend.
Oh
1
God.
in 6. Can you imagine that you've got all of the little nasty voices talking in your head and you have nobody to confide in order to say, "Hey, I just gotta get this off my chest," right?
It's tragically funny you say this. I remember this is more post government when I used to work for the government. When I entered the government, got a really really good job, but I moved into state, and I didn't know anyone. So I was basically moved to a new state to start a new job. I did not know anyone, and the first 6 months I actually felt that way. The first 6 months is I eventually made some friends and started sharing my ideas, but for the first 6 months I felt that way. I've got no one to talk to, and I agree with you. I think women are better networked, right? Be it personally or professionally. You're right. When they have problems at work, I find women are more likely to have a good network to call in reinforcements or even just that emotional support.
I agree. I agree. But I think that that is what it really boils down to when we talk about we want
Mm.
to be fulfilled professionals. So, what does that mean in order to be a fulfilled professional? Yes, it means that you are generating wealth. Now, we in modern day society think of wealth as mainly financial. If you
Yeah.
go back 2,000 years to the ancient Greeks, the definition of wealth was actually a lot more holistic. It was a lot more
Mm.
encompassing, particularly in the concept of well-being, which
Mhm.
we know with all the focus in terms of mental health these days, that well-being is also a significant part of that fulfillment.
Mhm.
But there's a third element, and that's purpose. That's why. What
Mhm.
is your why? And how are you spending your days moving towards your why? Because your most precious asset on this planet
Mhm.
is your time and your energy. When you spend it, you do not get it back.
Yeah.
How are you investing your time and your energy towards your why, towards your purpose? The ultimate would be able to bring those three elements of your life together: your purpose, your desire for wealth, and your desire for well-being together. And that's what I call being the CEO of your life, that you are managing that in terms of your professional endeavors to achieve that.
Yeah, it's amazing you say. Again, one of our wonderful new members, and again, yeah, sort of protecting their identity, but they wouldn't mind me saying this, of course, is that they were the successful corporate success, and I hear this a lot. I've heard this from a lot of women, right? I hear this every week. So successful corporate, doing really, really well. 40 hits, ageism kicks in, right? So and
Mhm.
it gets harder to get promoted, it gets harder to move. And for a lot of these women, tragically, they might sit there and start saying, I want to have a family. It's getting a bit late for me biologically. I want to have a family, but I'm too busy stuck at work. What do I do? I've seen this conundrum, and I couldn't agree with you more, is that it's a whole golden handcuff expression, isn't it? It's sort of like, I'm earning a lot of money. I might have the title, but my life sucks. I'm literally chained to my desk every day. I'm not free to live my life. I imagine you must see that a lot in your line of work, Scott.
Yeah. So here's a tragic truth, or at least I believe it, right?
No, I,
Um,
I believe you.
your, your, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
believe you.
your paycheck is one of the most dangerous drugs on this planet.
Yeah, there
And
you
I
go.
say that because if you have worked your way up the ranks, you have dedicated
Mm,
5, 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it is, in order to reach that level of status and
mm,
compensation, etc., right? The challenge is
yeah.
that you want to protect that investment.
Yep,
You to
been
say,
there.
have earned the right in order to have that kind of coin coming in, regardless of the crap that I have to put up with, right?
Mm,
The problem with that is that we as business owners sometimes forget this sage old truth. Do not make decisions on sunk cost. All of that time that you have invested, all of that energy, all of the different things that you've had to do, all of that is sunk. You cannot change that. You cannot change what the path is that had landed you at your point today. The only thing that you can do is you can take extreme ownership and stand in your truth and say, from where I'm at, what is the gap to where I want to be?
mm,
And one of the questions that I ask my clients is, write me your obituary, and then write what are the things that you need to do in order to bridge the gap between where you're at and the story you want others to tell about you.
And just on that one, it's funny. And by the way, I'm not being anti-capitalistic. I'm all for earning lots of money, and I'm all for
Oh yeah,
that. But
absolutely.
I found it interesting that in the obituary, in your obituary, no one talks about the car you drive or the size of your house.
Hmm. I agree.
You know,
I agree.
it,
That's why.
no,
That's why when I look for potential clients to work with, right? I really want them to be purpose and legacy driven, right?
mm,
I want them to feel like they they either understand their why or they
mhm,
want to understand their why because they want the story that is told about them to really resonate with who they are. And money is just a tool. Okay. Money is a
Mm.
tool that we made up as civilizations in order to put quantitative measures to certain types of, different activities, right? It's a tool, right?
Mm.
It's neither good or evil. Everybody's like, money is good. Oh, money is good. No,
Yeah.
money has no emotion,
Yeah,
right?
it's irrelevant.
It's
Saying
irrelevant.
money is good or
It is,
bad is
it is,
irrelevant.
it is what we do with money
Yeah.
that causes the underlying emotions that we have. And ultimately, at the end of the day, don't we want to have the best possible life experiences?
Yeah. No, I gotta say it's incredible, and I love where you're going. And again, I live in, we live in Sydney, which is like you would say the capital of the southern hemisphere of the Western world, basically. And yeah, we live in a big city, so we see this all the time. I've seen it so much lately, and one of the biggest things that I think's really changed the world is especially we had the pandemic, we had all that. Pre-pandemic, a lot of people were very married to their jobs.
Hmm.
Once the pandemic occurred and everyone lost their jobs, people were finding themselves less attached to jobs, but now they're finding new things to be driven by. So, for example, one of my side roles is I'm also the community leader for Meetup, the Meetup group
Yep.
network in
Yep.
Australia. And it's interesting that dating groups have gone through the roof. So, especially in the post sort of pandemic era, you're seeing more people. I think you're right. They're being more holistic in their thinking. Say, hang on, yeah, I want the money, but hey, I want to meet someone. Or if I don't want to meet anyone, I want to travel. I want to do something that I want to do. So I like your tagline and how it's be the CEO of your life, because I find if we just follow what the establishment says, it's basically career, academia, everything else be done with you.
Hmm. Well, I agree, right? But let's not discount the Elon Musks of the
Oh,
world,
yeah.
very
Love
driven,
Elon.
visionaries, etc., right? They are being the CEO of their life. Okay,
Mm,
let's not get them wrong. They have a
yeah,
very distinct purpose in terms of what
yeah.
they want in life, right? Elon will say his number
Love
one
Elon.
thing with every single company that he invests in or runs, right, is ultimately to put a man on Mars. Everything that he does
Wow.
has an underlying why. I want to put a man on Mars, right?
Yeah.
And
Love
regardless
it.
if he's successful or not, he is driving towards that purpose every
Yeah.
single day. Now, you can have whatever opinion you want in terms of how he handles that and how he handles others. That's fine, right? But is he being the CEO of his life by
Yeah.
driving to his why? Yes. To your point, though, a lot of people are saying, you know what, hold on, right? I want that more well-rounded experience.
Mm.
Yes, title, responsibility, prestige, accomplishments, compensation, etc., right? That they're all important to me, right? But also being able to take a bet on myself and
Mm.
venture out on my own,
Yeah.
being able to do something that I didn't think was possible until I put the reps in and I did it. And when I look back, that it wasn't the destination of actually being able to do it. It was the journey to get there that I look back with pride. That's
Yeah.
the type of stuff that people want to go through because that's the type of stuff that people say, that's a great story. He or she
Yeah.
led a great life, right? And ultimately, what I have packaged in my business offering in terms of helping people find that and harness that in whatever professional arena that they are in was basically the culmination of that fateful day at the end of 2017, where I knew something had to change to today and all the lessons in between.
But it was just on that, right? Like he went from a guy literally, you were probably not far off on an aneurysm, a stroke, or cardiac arrest. Obviously, you're very close to the edge.
Correct.
And this is the same guy who ran the Boston Marathon a few months ago. Tell us about that.
That is correct. I actually had run my first ever Boston Marathon 8 months prior in
Oh,
April on
yeah.
behalf of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. So I lost my mother to triple negative breast cancer in 2014.
Yeah.
And my sister, who lives in the Boston area, had found the Dana-Farber team the year prior in 2016 as a way to fundraise and also honor her memory. Make sure that
Mm.
she was never forgotten, that she was always known as in memory of, right? So she was telling me about that. I got hooked. I joined the team in 2017, right? And I
Yeah.
actually just ran my seventh straight year on the team this past April. So 7 straight years that I've run the Boston Marathon on behalf of Dana Farber, and I believe 125,000, a little over 125,000 that I fundraised in my lifetime. So, that's the way that my mom's legacy can live on through me, through my sister, through everybody who is part of our team.
Yeah, I love it. And as a guy who's run marathons before, I totally understand the feeling and vibes. And I mean, a lot of people watching would never have run a marathon before, and they'd be thinking, "Wow, you must be so disciplined to do it." And to me, and I know you've said this, I'm just stealing your beautiful poetry here. Is running a marathon and succeeding in it is ultimately a metaphor for life. That's obviously the case.
It is
How
correct.
do you, when you're running that marathon, what are the feelings that you go through during that experience? What are the highs? What are the lows? What are the feelings you go through? And what happens internally in one's mind as you run a marathon?
So typically, and I'll just take my Boston experiences
Yeah.
as the example, right? So the first 5 miles when you run Boston, two things are going through your head. Number one, I thought they said this was going to be a downhill start. This doesn't feel like downhill
Okay. So
because it is.
they're doing that to you already. You're already doing that.
It's actually flat to uphill to start until you get to mile
Right.
5. But the other thing that is going through your mind is, I've got 20 plus miles still remaining. Don't
Mhm.
you dare go out too fast.
Yeah.
Pace yourself. Make
Yeah.
sure that you're taking your hydration breaks. Make sure that you are staying in your runner strategy. Make sure that you're not chasing after the person who's in front of you,
Yeah.
because that is not your race. Run your race at your pace, right?
Yeah. And just on that one, I'm guilty of this. So I'm pointing the spotlight of accusation on me. I'm not like this anymore, but for years I was very much a sort of person. If I'd be jogging down the street and someone overtakes me, that would negatively trigger me.
Correct.
Tell us a bit more about that. How do we? Oh, we've got a few friends here. We've got Christine Bell with us. Christine Bell, we can see you, my
Hello,
friend.
Christine. How are you?
We love you, Christine Bell. We've got Radawan with us. Welcome, Radawan. If you just come in, my friends, please smash that like, repost, comment, connect with wonderful Scott Raven over LinkedIn. And I was going to say a big welcome. Now, I want to ask you, and I used to be very much like this. I used to be, and this is a side of me I never liked, and I was really glad to remove from myself, is that you're running along and someone overtakes you.
Yep.
And let's say you feel triggered.
Yep.
How do you deal with it? How do you end that competitive cycle? Because I used to be stuck in that and I hated it. How do you stop that? How do you stay to your own race and let other people run their race?
A simple statement to take from Boston is, you do you, boo. And as you are struggling up the hills of Newton, I will say hi as I pass by,
Yeah,
right?
love it.
Because, everybody can run fast when times are good. When times get challenging, as they are when you're running hills and marathons, that's where your tenacity, that's where your perseverance, that's where your resilience, that's where your inner resolve comes in, right? And whether it's running marathons or doing the types of great work that myself and my clients want to get out of their lives, right? That it is about the longer term play. It is about realizing that there is no such thing as an overnight success, that you have to do the work on a consistent basis to get there. One of my clients, Caesar, right, is in that process right now as he's developing his minimum viable product for his upcoming sobriety retreats that he's going to launch, based
Wow.
mainly on what he had to go through
And,
in
and,
his
and,
life.
and just to jump in, by sobriety, you mean as in giving up alcohol or
Right.
staying sober? Is that what you mean?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Yeah, gotcha. Just
Yeah.
want to jump in. We've got Tu Din with us. Tu Din, we love you. Big
Oh,
welcome to Tu Din. And Christine Bell made a good point. True, Scott, it's the uphill and circles that show us what we're really made of. That's incredible. And I just want to say, Scott, I love where you're going and I love your thinking. And you are so right. It's all about us being the CEO of our lives and taking charge of it. I think it's
Mm.
very, very amazing. And tell us a bit more about that client and some of the again, obviously protecting confidentiality, but tell us more about that client, some other cool stuff you're working on because I love the cases that you work on. They're amazing.
Sure. I mean, just to finish that, he is very successful not only in the corporate world, but he's also a member of a couple of boards of directors of local charitable organizations here in Atlanta. But he really wanted to give back to men who needed that outlet and that support in order to beat their demons with alcohol, right? And so as we honed in on that purpose, as we started to develop the game plan in terms of how to get there, as we started to say, who are you going to have help you? Because you can't do this by yourself. And how are you going to do this in a realistic manner? Because you still have a job, you got a family, you got a beautiful daughter, right? How are we setting our own expectations so that we're doing this at the pace that you can run this marathon and still be successful? And how can we do it in such a manner when we talk about that minimal viable product that we say, we're going to do something small at first and we're going to learn from it so that we can potentially grow it into what we want it to be at the end of the day. Those are the types of things that I work with my clients in terms of the Ascent program, how to bring all of those different elements of what a true entrepreneurial skill set and mindset entail so that they have the best chance to succeed, so that they can look back and they could say, regardless of result, I gave it a go, and I'm glad I gave it a go. One of my favorite quotes is the Teddy Roosevelt quote, the man in the arena, to paraphrase, be the person who fights valiantly in the arena and dies versus the person who never fought at all. These are the people who took a bet on themselves, and regardless of result, they're going to enjoy it.
It's amazing you say that, and again, I know this is very dark but very relevant. But we've been dealing a lot with death lately, right? And what I mean by that is I don't mean personal losses in my own life, but like yourself, I've been speaking to a lot of people lately who have lost someone quite close to them. At least once a week, actually, I get a phone call saying, "Ed, I've lost someone close to me. Can I talk to you about it?" Right?
Mhm.
I think it's more my Christian veteran vibe probably gives that off. And as a guy who's lost a lot of people myself, one of and let's say someone rings me up and they're very upset about someone who's died, right? The first thing I say to them is, how did the person die? I just play, federal police officer and get all the facts. But then I turn around and ask this question. You've said this to me before, so again, I'm stealing your license here.
Okay.
How did that person live? So I'll say, how did they die? But how did that person live?
Mhm.
And quite often, this is one of our friends, they told me this person was actually amazing. They did all this community work. They had all these friends. They traveled the world. And I'm like, and they're into Star Trek. So I brought up a bit of Star Trek humor and saying, well, quoting the Klingons, it sounds like they had an honorable life and an honorable death. And it was interesting when I brought up that, tragic, humor, they were instantly turned around, right?
I
I want
agree.
to ask a bit more about that because, again, no one likes talking about death, but death does happen, right? And death can be a physical death. Death can also be the death of our identity. How do we tell us more about living the life we want? How do we sit there and become the CEO of our life and do what we want in a very short time on this planet?
So there are movies for guys who like movies out there, right? Two of them are Braveheart and Gladiator.
Oh,
In
gotcha.
Braveheart, in
Few
Braveheart,
Australians there.
right,
Bit of Mel Gibson and Russell Crowe. A bit of
okay.
Australians there. I love it.
In Braveheart, William Wallace says, "Every man dies, not every man truly lives."
Yeah,
And
true.
in Gladiator, Russell Crowe's character, Maximus, says, "What we do in life echoes in eternity."
Mm.
Okay? So it's the story that you leave others that is your true contribution
Mm.
as a mortal on this planet. One of my favorite movies growing up was the movie Dead Poet Society by the late great Robin Williams, right?
Mm.
And Robin Williams was, having a class session about the identity, right? What is your purpose in life? That the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. And what will your verse be?
Mm.
So when we talk about being the CEO of your life, we're talking about, are you taking control of what that verse is, of what you are contributing to the overall story?
Oh, brilliant. As I jump in, we've got some great shares from Christine Bell. And in fact, I just want to do a quick segue. I want to do a quick segue for the moment. I want to talk about two people listening in. The amazing Tu Din's a top lady of finance and more. We love you, Tu Din. And also we've got Christine Bell with us. I thought, did you want to do a quick Christine Bell infomercial, Scott Raven? So complete side note, I want to ask
Absolutely.
you,
Absolutely.
why?
And,
Can you
and,
give us three reasons why Christine Bell's the one?
and now for this word from our sponsor. Please contact Christine Bell of Sparkit, who helped me refine my brand messaging regarding the Raven Group to make it effective, and so that I could clearly communicate the value proposition, the unique value proposition that allows me to portray being the CEO of your life. Christine Bell, she'll do you right.
There we go. No, I love it. There we go. And Christine Bell, we love Christine Bell, and she made a few points here, and this is tragic, and I know the numbers too. Excess deaths in Australia are up 15 to 20% every month since mid 2021. So yeah, a lot of people are dying, right? And it's funny, like we know a lot of people who die all the time, and also too, again, when people die, at least once a week, someone will reach out to me saying, Ed, I need to talk to you, and I just know from the tone what the topic's going to be.
Right.
And Christine Bell also said, love your deep insights, Ed and Scott. And Christine Bell then went on to say, bless you and thank you so much, Ed and Scott. I appreciate it. Yeah, there we go. So we love Christine Bell, which is
We do. She is all sorts of awesome.
There we go. Now, I was going to say, Scott Raven, we've been on for more than half an hour. Our listeners are amazing. If you are on, please like, repost, comment. In the wind up, Scott Raven, I'd love to get closing thoughts from you. Tell us whatever you want to tell us. We'd love to hear it. And also to tell us, I know you take on clients from all across the world. How does working with you look, and what's the process, and how does it all come together?
Right. So first off, I hope that this conversation between Ed and me touched you in some way, because that's really all I wanted to accomplish here. I just wanted to connect with your mind, heart, and soul, right? So if I did that, if something resonated with you and put a burr under your butt in terms of going out and taking action, then
so I've never heard that before. That must be an American South thing.
no, burr under your butt. Burr under your butt is not,
so a bird's.
It's not redneck, right? It just is. I'll put it that way.
So to explain the language, because our language is so a burr is like a thistle or a thorn, right? Is that a fair comment?
That is correct.
And your butt is your butt, so it's like sitting on a big thorn to go. So
and you can imagine what you're going to do if you've got a burr in your butt. You're going to try to get it out, right? Exactly.
I've never heard of that before, but I'm going to take it. You want to stick a burr? I can't even. How do you say a burr? You want to get a burr under your butt?
A burr in your butt.
The burr in your butt.
And you got to slam it all together. The more that you can get it slurred together, the better. I'll put it that way.
So carry on. I love your saying. So you have to translate for the audience, but that's awesome.
There you go. But no, I mean, the point is, right? The challenge most people have is that they're all talk, no action.
Yes.
So if I could leave you with one final piece and then tell you, if you want to talk with me more, how you get in contact with me, take action and don't be afraid to fail. This is particularly directed at those people who are in those corporate positions, who have invested years and years and years and have been conditioned by the companies that they're in to be very risk adverse in life. And that has taught them to be risk adverse as a professional, because all of this investment that they've made to get the title, the corner office, etc., right? They don't want to risk that, right? Here's a challenge with that. The challenge with that is if they look at themselves in the mirror when they wake up and they're hollow, they don't see an ally, they see an enemy. They see somebody who has all of these masks that they have to wear for others, but the true person inside them can never come out. That's not a life, guys. That's not a life. You're living for others. You're not living for yourself. So make sure in whatever you do that it connects back to the true you. And for those people who want to take that on and are looking for that type of journey, right? I encourage them to go to my website, which is the-raven-group.com. And we'll put that in there, right? So it's got the dashes in between the Raven Group. You'll find out all information about me. You also find out all the information in terms of my flagship program, The Ascent, and that you can book your no obligation discovery call with me.
Oh, incredible. And I got to say, friends, you've heard it straight from Scott Raven. So again, check out Scott Raven's website. And also too, if you want to get in contact with Scott, please connect with Scott directly on LinkedIn or send me a message and I can introduce you to him. So Scott Raven, thank you so much. Thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us. And the numbers are fantastic. Lots of people we've already had hundreds of people tune in. So if you've just come in, big thank you, like, repost, comment. If you're watching the recording as well, thank you again. Scott, I just want to bounce back to you. Please give us a great closing thought to close this live stream on.
The great closing thought that I will give is this. It is never too late to start living the life you were meant to live.
There we go. It's never too late to start living the life you're meant to live. Scott, we love your work. And Two Din's come in. Two Din, we love you. Two Din's a fantastic mortgage and loan expert from Queensland, Australia. Great insight. Appreciate that, Scott. We appreciate you too. Scott, thank you so much. You are an incredible man. I want to wish you the rest of a beautiful Sunday evening in wonderful Atlanta.
Absolutely. It is time to say goodnight to my kids before they go to bed. And I will see you and the rest of the Aussies down the line somewhere.
Pleasure. Scott, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. Keep winning. Love your work, everyone. Stay awesome. Bye all.